Hi guys, LC Fifa here, and welcome to my 89 rated base Icon Lev Yashin player review. His moments card last year was pretty incredible for me, and I think it's currently the most viewed video on my channel. This is the only Yashin card I'm yet to try in FIFA, and since he's a bit more affordable than his 91, I thought I'd pick him up. Anyway, as you see on screen, this is the team I started him in. Yashin in goal, Reguilon, Gomez, Sanchez and Semedo in defence, Lo Celso, Torreira and Allen in midfield, with Son, Rodrigo and Pepe in attack. Yashin 6'2", his right foot has a 1-star skill moves and a 3-star weak foot. Moving on to his in-game stats, I originally bought him with basic but changed him to glove because he really wasn't performing too great for me. With glove he went up to 99 diving and handling, with 94 positioning on 10 chemistry. Unfortunately he doesn't have any traits, but then again it's probably better to have none than bad ones. I'll quickly show his icon profile on screen so you can pause it if you want to have a read through it, but this card is basically for his performances in the mid-1950s for Dynamo Moscow and the Soviet Union in the Olympics. So I'll start with this diving, which for me was one of the major improvements when using glove on him. When I originally bought him with basic, Yashin barely saved anything at all, and I'd easily say he was the worst 82 plus rated keeper I tried in FIFA 21. But once I changed him to glove, he actually started to dive correctly like you'd expect someone with 91 diving to play. He's capable of making both one and two-handed saves, although most of the time, I did notice he'd choose to use two hands when diving to stop the ball. When you need him to though, he can use his feet and body to block shots, which is useful, especially if the attacker is close to him. His reflexes were great, and you can tell how good they are purely based on how quickly he enters a diving animation, even if he's close to the attacker taking the shot. Although I wouldn't say he was as good as 90 Schmeichel in this area, he still felt elite level when it came to reacting to close shots. Most of the time, any first effort shots that made its way past him was due to a good finish, and something that other keepers would equally struggle to stop. Based on the goalkeepers I've used so far this year, this card really reminded me of using Lloris. They have a very similar playstyle, not just in terms of card stats, but also the way they perform on the pitch. Another major selling point of this card is his speed, and in this category he really doesn't disappoint. He definitely felt like one of the faster goalkeepers I've used this year, which is probably down to the breakdown of his speed stat. Yashin has 69 acceleration, which as I'll be making this video, puts him up there as one of the fastest goalkeepers off the mark. Obviously most of the situations you'll find yourself needing to use your goalkeeper speed is when trying to beat players to the ball inside the box. So having a higher acceleration stat is the most important of the two in my opinion. When it came to players moving inside the box, if they took a heavy touch whilst dribbling close to Yashin, he'd dive down at their feet to grab the ball and win back possession for your team. Against crosses and corners, he always managed to come out to clear the ball away, and because of his high acceleration, anything between the penalty spot and the goal is usually his. I tried him on both default and aggressive for his instructions against crosses and saving for outside the box. I personally like having him on comes for crosses, but for saves outside the box, I prefer to leave it on balance. Positioning on this card was decent. I wouldn't say it was always perfect, but then again it isn't 99, so that's to be expected. It was just as good as other goalkeepers I've tried, with high 80s positioning. The majority of the time he was in the right place for shots taken both inside and outside the box, and he was never stood too far off his line, making him more difficult to beat from range or from finesse shots. Even if I brought him out a little bit manually to try and pressure my opponent into taking an early shot, he did well to shuffle back into a decent position to make the save. The only time I'd say it could have been a little bit better was when players get quite close to the goal, he seems to take a little step forward. This probably helps with his ability to collect the ball from a bad touch, but considering his speed, I thought there was times he could have potentially come out to get the ball a bit more than he did, or get a better block on the shot using his body. Distribution with Yashin was about average I would say. His kicking stat is very underwhelming for his rating, but he was good enough for me. He can kick it past the halfway line out of his hands, but I didn't really get the chance to go on a counter-attack as the ball didn't go deep enough to beat the defenders. His flat kicking in open play was better than I thought it'd be. It wasn't amazing, don't get me wrong, but usually keepers with low kicking really struggle when it comes to clearing the ball away from the ground. You can get it sort of between the box and the halfway line, around where your centre mid sit, so he can get it over your defence, which is the main thing. His throw-in, although he doesn't have the long throw trait, was actually decent, and had a good amount of power and height to his throws, so it does make it who you intend it to go to. Now onto the negatives, with the first being his height. Now I've used a few goalkeepers recently that have been 6'2", and I haven't really noticed any problems with them when it came to their reachability. But for some reason with Yashin, I don't know why, but he didn't seem that big in goal at all. He reminded me of using someone like Lopez, a 6-foot Lyon keeper, although most of the time he made the right diving animation, he just couldn't reach the ball properly. His high diving and positioning stats do try help counter this, but like I've said, I've tried to Stegen and Edison recently, and didn't even give their height a second thought. But Yashin is the first keeper I've tried so far in FIFA 21 that has shown me 6'2", is still around the region where height impacts the goalkeeper's reachability. The final negative, and the main one for me, was his handling. This is where I start to ignore what chemistry styles say they do, because apparently this card with glove goes up to 99 handling. However, it's clear in game that his handling really isn't maxed out because he parries a lot of shots. You can still catch the odd shot that's either taken from far away enough or lacks decent shot power, but it's similar to all the other keepers I've used with mid-80s handling. If you compare this card to Neuer, who only has +1 in this category, the difference is really noticeable. However, the key issue is the fact that he pushes the ball back across the goal rather than putting it out for a corner, and as a result you will concede a few rebounds. I used him for quite a few matches, and as far as top level keepers go, I think I conceded the most amount of rebound goals with Yashin than any other keeper, yet stat wise, he's one of the better handling keepers I've reviewed. So overall, I'm going to give 89 Yashin a 7.5 out of 10. I've got to say that unfortunately, I was really disappointed with this card's performance. Yes, he can make some great diving and reflex saves, and his speed puts him up there as one of the fastest keepers in the game, but it's his reachability and most importantly, the amount of rebound opportunities he costs me that lets him down. I never consider price when giving an overall rating, but for me, Schmeichel's 90 version was massively better on a game-to-game basis and is the same price. On the cheaper end, Lloris was sort of similar to this card and he's 20k. Hopefully when they get released, Yashin's Prime and Moments card, with their boosted handling, might fix his rebound issues. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like rating and don't forget to subscribe, and to request any future content, please leave a comment in the comment section below and I'll be sure to reply.